Hey there, everybody. It's Karen Wagner here. I just wanted to share with you a great parenting tip for today. I know so many of the families that I'm working with are really struggling with teens and their grades and their being successful in school. So today I want to talk to you about how to let your teens own their own grades. You know, each case of lack of motivation can be different. So let's take a look at some of the main causes why kids may be struggling with their grades. So the first thing I want to share with you, and I think I probably experienced this myself, if I want to reflect back to when I was in school, but you know what? They just get tired of the demands, of school. School can be an intense time, and especially when they have been learning either remotely or virtually and trying to adapt to that. But it can be an intense time of either competition, academically, socially, trying to stay, connected with their peers. And they just get tired of the routine, before the school year even ends. And I know personally for each one of my kids, the third quarter was always a dip. It's like they're excited to get back in the first quarter, the second quarter, then we have the holidays, and it's right after the holidays, there's the dip. But I always encourage them that they could finish strong. So, but most of us make the mistake of trying to shove our kids into graduation. We're trying to shove them to be successful. And honestly, this will almost always fail. And even if we do shove our kids and push them into their success and graduation, a lot of times it just backfires because we are not going to be there in college to do the same thing. So we find that even if we are pushing our kids to graduate, they're going to end up failing the first semester of college because, we're not there to push them anymore. And honestly, there comes a time that we can't push another adult into success. And if you are parenting teenagers, they are just about there. They are young adults at this point, so it's best to let them know that, that they can graduate. Let them know that you are there to help them graduate. But the ball is in their court. I remember having that conversation with Kyle because the power struggle was just so much and the conflict that we got into. And I just kind of backed off and said, you know what, honey, I'll love you no matter how long it takes you to get out of high school. And I said that in a calm way, not in a sarcastic way. And he just looked at me and says, I'm going to get out of high school. And I just said, I hope you do. And I had to back off. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did because you know what I did? I gave it to him. And then I wanted to kind of take you back, but if your kids do reach a point in which school is not necessarily important to them anymore, what they're really telling you is that they are ready to start adulting. Then it's ready for employment. So if you find that your kids are not wanting to do school or they're ready to quit school, if they school, maybe it's time for them to find a job so that they can then learn to the home. And once they get out there and start realizing that the money they make is not enough, they'll probably come back, go back to school, get their GED and continue on. But it releases you from the power struggle. Another thing to think about when kids are not doing well at school is, are they struggling with some depression? Are there any learning disabilities that we need to be aware of? Now, if you suspect that your child is depressed or they're struggling with a learning disability, I do want to encourage you to seek some help, partner with the teachers and see if you can get some help with that, because berating your kid who is struggling due to something that's probably beyond their control, all that really does is make that underachievement situation even worse. It starts to affect their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves. And remember, because I teach this in school as well, there are many different learning styles. And so if they are struggling with learning, the first thing I always wanted to see is, how is the material being taught? And is it being taught in my child's learning style? Because I'm telling you, just the tweak of the learning style, that child will then take off. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not just what you teach, it's how you teach it that will really help your child connect. So is that material being taught in your child's predominant learning style? Something to think about. The other thing is peer pressure. So when we get into the teen years, that friends are it and it's no longer you, okay? But when kids start hanging out with kids or a peer group that don't necessarily value education maybe as much as you do, this is something I want you to think about. It's helpful to let your kids know that I hope you rub off on them. I hope you rub off on your friends. And, I always had an open home. My kids' friends were always welcome in my home. And if there were kids that I felt were maybe a little bit more challenging, maybe didn't have the same values, maybe didn't have the same motivation of what I wanted to see in our home. And I get a little nervous that my kids may choose that over what I was teaching. I just said to them, I hope you rub off on them. I hope they're able to see the good in you and want to be more like you. We head off those battles with those types of things, because as soon as you try to pick their friends or tell them they can no longer hang out with them, I'm telling you, they're fighting words. They're going to find a way to be with those kids, and you're not going to have any control over that. So just affirm your kids that they have what it takes. And you know what? I hope you rub off on them. Let them be the ones that maybe guide other kids to be making better choices. So when it comes down to the end of this, we can head off a lot of these battles by allowing kids to just own their grades. Now, I know we all want our kids to be bringing home A's and B's, and that we don't necessarily like seeing the C's. But I just want to remind you that C's are still a satisfactory grade. I mean, most of us live our life living in the C zone. Am I always A material with every meal I cook? Probably not. Am I always A material or AB material in everything I do in my life? Probably not. And so we want our kids to achieve. We want them to be their best. But, and a C is okay. So sometimes we're driving. Listen, teens will want to feel as though they are hurting us by failing if all we do is value them based on their relationships. So teens need to be taught to view their success as success or failure as belonging to them, because a lot of them will try to punish us by not doing well in school, because that's all we ever talk about. So think about, how can I maintain a good parent-child relationship? Ask non-accusatory questions. Just ask questions about them, how things are going, and not always about their schoolwork. Did you get the assignments done? Just build a relationship, have a meal together, cook a meal together, take a walk, ride a bike, do something that's not always about the schoolwork. Maintain interest in them without anger, and truly, in the end, let the consequences naturally fall. If the child fails, and none of us want our kids to fail, I'm not saying that we want that, but if they fail, they need to recognize they have failed because of what they did or did not do. And that is just to be sad and not mad when our kids fail. When we're sad, it's like, dang, bummer. Oh man, that's rough. And just not make it any further. Is there anything I can do to help you? Rather than, what were you thinking? You didn't get your homework done. You didn't, we weren't studying for tests, and we're just in their faces. You need to let them internalize, and maybe they feel bad about the fact. Now, look, maybe the first failure is not going to be it, but if they find that they are responsible for their grades, not you, we usually need to let them take that dip before they start to come up. So when you back off from riding them, one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to fall or they're going to fly. And those who do fall a little bit will eventually begin to fly, but they're going to fly under their own energy and not because we are nagging them. So ways that we can let kids own their grades is back off a little bit. Be there to support them and maintain that positive relationship. So I hope this parenting tip helped you. If it did, feel free to comment below. If you are struggling with connecting with your teens, please feel free to click the link below and set up a connect call. We can talk about where you are, where you want to be, and see if a parenting blueprint can help transform your parenting from chaos to confidence. I'll talk to you all again soon. Take care.